to our Friday nights. We're getting a few people coming in. Sailing administrator having a nice Pinot tonight, are we? Oh, no, you're muted. There's a reason you're muted.
Shiraz, David, Shiraz.
It's a Shiraz, okay, yes.
I better just change my virtual background.
So the people are rolling in the door. It's great to see.
We're at the club. How is everybody?
All good.
Good as we can be under the circumstances. How does that sound?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Where's Rob Tanner tonight?
I don't know.
A big mountain behind him.
We all want to know what Eddie's having for dinner tonight.
Well, that's why I joined, to see what Eddie's had in dinner. But I'm in Gibraltar. I thought you realised that. So.
Yeah.
I think
it's in the garage, Don, because I hadn't finished trying.
I think he's becoming a bit self-conscious about his dinner.
And Adrian, I'll just fill you in on what happened there a couple of weeks ago. While it was going on, one of our participants was having their evening meal, and in the chat thing, I was asking, "Oh, what's Eddie having for dinner?" And you could see everyone else sort of chuckling away while that was all happening, and he moved on to a nice Pinot as well, sort of thing. So
yeah, great.
Yeah,
cheeky.
I'll have to.
I always thought it was black coffee.
Black coffee, yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, the first question for tonight is we should have a wine tasting evening. So what happens there? Do we send everybody a bottle of wine or something?
That's a good idea, Mr. Treasurer. Excellent idea.
Yeah, at $50 a head, I reckon we'll make a profit.
Well, yeah, who's choosing the wine? Oh, come on, Rod. I think you've got to choose the wine.
Yeah. How are we looking there, Rod, manager? Are we happy to proceed? I think you're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, no, we're definitely over the 15 mark. I just want to say that if Pat Caruso's there, he owns a winery, he could definitely supply the wines. So that would be good.
I'll make a selection.
Yeah.
All right. No, you're on, Dave. You're on.
Okay, so I'll kick off. I'm the host for tonight, as of about 5 hours ago. So it's actually a night I'm really looking forward to this. We've got Adrian, who's currently the coach at Royal Brighton Yacht Club. Great to be to have a coach at a club. I think that's fantastic. Adrian's got lots of experience, lots of stories. Been to the Olympics and all that. I like to point out at this point, how do you know if someone's been to the Olympics? They'll tell you. Yeah. So Adrian's going to do that. He's got involvement in the Paralympics as well, which I'm particularly interested in. I've got a cousin who's in the para badminton field as a coach as well. So I'm hoping he's going to turn up tonight. Otherwise, he's certainly going to be very interested in your comments in that way. The format for the night, you'll all be muted. If you want to make questions, use the chat. Adrian's going to sort of just run through some general things, general information, and then there'll be sort of questions and answers and so forth. Just to give you a bit of background with Adrian, he has done a race with our manager, Rod. He did the Brisbane to Gladstone race on Wild Thing, which Rod said was an interesting race. But I think you did win, and that was all due to the navigational experience of Adrian. Is that correct, Adrian? You need to unmute Adrian.
There we go.
There you
How's
go.
that? Yeah, look, Rod might be talking it up there and handling the truth carelessly, but we did have a great time, and yeah, it's a few years ago now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, do you want to just sort of give us a little bit of your? I'll let you start off with your background. I mean, you've had an amazing career coming down from Queensland, representing, going to a few Olympics and so forth, doing some Volvos. Just give us an update on what you've been up to.
Yeah, look, Dave, and thanks for having me. Rod threw out a message to me the other week during this COVID period and said, hey, would you be interested in helping our club out and chatting? And I thought, you know, the biggest thing we can do at the moment is connect with others of like-minded sailors and be good to each other, because it's tough times. And I know my own club at Royal Brighton, everyone's chomping at the bit to get back to the yacht club and go sailing and enjoy the ocean. So, you know, it's the last thing I could do for our community, because you know, we're all the same. We're all sailors, and we all love being out there in the ocean, and we love the camaraderie of each other. And this type of thing at the moment is just key to our survival. So, yeah, just awesome to see everyone on. But my background, I was like most young kids who grew up in the 70s, fell in love with a community sport called sailing. My mum and dad didn't know anything about the sport, and they took me down to a sailing club, and I got involved with I think it was a summer holiday program. And I was taught to sail by a very old called another man called Tom Verne. And they were the local stalwarts back at our club in Brisbane, a place called Sandgate on the north side of Brisbane. And started in a little sabo with my brother. And, you know, back then it was all volunteer help. There was no professional coaching as such. But the big thing that the early years, they gave me the passion with the sport. There wasn't so much organised type of activities, but they gave me the passion to actually just be out there in the ocean and enjoy the waves and the wind and the sun. And being a Queensland kid, you had the ability to go out there all the time with the weather conditions. So that burning desire to be out there sailing started quite young, and probably from about the age of 12 to into my 20s, I didn't stop thinking or breathing sailing every day of the week. And probably I've had this career as a sailing coach because I wasn't at school much. So school for me, it didn't capture my imagination. It wasn't the road for me, and I just sailed at every minute that I could. And so my parents were such a huge part of that support network. I mentioned they had no idea about sailing, but my dad had a sporting background. He was a elite level swimmer when he was young in the 50s, and he was very instrumental on giving me the idea on how to train as an athlete. And this was sort of something a little bit foreign back in the, I'd say, early 80s, was that sailors would actually train after school and before school. And my father gave me that inspiration. And so they allowed me to ride my push bike down to the yacht club, and I was out there on my sabo, and I was practicing all those basic things that you do, the tacking and the jibing, and perfecting all the basic skills. But it's a concept that's stayed with me right through my Olympic coaching career. It's what my father taught me, and it's perfect the basics of the sport or the given pastime that you're involved in. And so from that very junior background, I then went on a bit of a journey around the planet, and ended up doing a lot of big boat sailing, the Sydney Hobart type of stuff and far 40s. And I was involved with a B team on a Volvo Ocean Race and America's Cup. And then I got heavily involved in my coaching, and the initial introduction into the Olympic program was actually with the US team in 1992 at the Barcelona Olympics, and I was then coaching a fantastic athlete called Lainey Butler from the USA, and I had the opportunity to attend the Olympics alongside her and help her out. And back then, the US Olympic team was the most successful Olympic team still on record to this day. out of the 10 classes that were there, the US team didn't win. They medalled in 9 of the 10 classes.
Wow.
So that was a huge achievement, and I was actually the only coach that didn't win a medal. My athlete was 5th place, and that was a great thing, but it also stoked the fire to go on and try to achieve something greater in the sport. And probably with some of the journey, with some of the great teams I've been involved with, there's a few things that are key in each team. And one thing that I would say, it's the personnel, and it's just like a business. I'd imagine I've never run a business, but you got to surround yourself with really good people. And one of the things back when I worked for the US team, they were all quite young back then, but we had an incredible knowledge base within that team. Quite a flat hierarchy. There wasn't too much of the top-down type of management with that team. It was everyone was there to help the greater team succeed. So as a younger coach, you could go and talk to some of the greats of the sport and really delve into what was making them or their athletes perform at the high level. So during that period, it was a real period for myself to see some of the best Olympic sailors in the world and the best program and coaches operate at the highest level. And from that Barcelona period, I then went on and, what class? Yeah, the Lechner sailboard. So it was a windsurfing class. So I came from a dinghy background, 420 and 470 class were my specialty as a young sailor. I think I'm not quite sure of how many nationals I've won in Australia here, but I'll tell. I think it's 10.
Well, what a difficult thing to have. Oh.
Yeah, seriously.
I can tell you how many I have.
Yeah, you know, I was very fortunate to have this amazing career and everything from Sabo's 420s, 470s, 505s, tasers, the match racing nationals, teams racing nationals. I've pretty much done it all. Sydney Hobart, I won the Sydney Hobart with the team in 2001. So I've got this very unique space when it comes to coaching. I've got a really diverse cross section of our sport, and these days, the last say 7 years, I've been very instrumental in the junior side of the sport in both Sorrento Sailing Club and now the Royal Brighton Yacht Club. And being an Olympic coach, and then coming back to this club space where you have little kids learning tackers, and you've got cruising sailors, and you've got people who race their S80 every weekend. It really gives you that good cross section to help all the community in a sailing club. And my role at the last 2 clubs I've been at, we call it the club coach, and it's very much like the golf pro at the golf club. You come into the club, and my role is to make sure you have a fantastic experience at the club when you're there, and I can help you out with any of your boating needs or wants or questions. And so in my role, it's all about giving back to the member base and making sure they're happy and having a great time sailing. So my role currently at Brighton, any day of the week can be different. One day I might be coaching a group of 30 young children who have come down from a school who have never been involved in our sport. And the next day I might be coaching John Bertram preparing for an Etchell Worlds, or it could be out on a Wednesday race with one of our Beneteau 40s, teaching the girls how to trim a jib better. Mm-hmm. So the role and giving back to the sport is a really huge part of my life, and it's what I do. It's what I'm geared. Rod knows me pretty well. It's what I'm geared to do, is give back. Mm-hmm. So it's been a great journey. And as my career progressed, I spent a lot of time in some of the Asian countries, working in Singapore and Korea, a little old place called Myanmar. Some of us know it as Burma. And we wouldn't imagine that a place that has strict military junta running the country, and with US sanctions and its dictatorship, you wouldn't think it had a Olympic sailing program. And so in the very early 2000s, I spent quite a bit of time up in Burma or Myanmar with some other great Australian coaches, trying to develop their pathway into youth sailing and into the Olympic level. And that was like going to the wild west of the end of the earth. It was an amazing 2000, 2001. I don't think a lot's changed. But the big thing you notice, you had, from a youth perspective, we had these young, passionate kids who just loved the ocean, and they loved getting out there in their boats. And that ingredient with, we always would say from a coaching perspective, it was East meets West. And we had our Western coaching technology meeting this raw talent, passion that basically was coming out of the woods, and we were teaching them how to sail. And as a young coach, working in a military regime back then, it was like a science experiment for me. The children were extremely dedicated. They had to be, because of the military junta. They weren't allowed to do anything but their sport, basically. And so as a coach, you could ask them to literally perform any task any amount of times. And if you said to the young athlete, okay, today we've got to do 1,000 spinnaker sets or 2,000 jibes, they would do it without doubt. And so with that, I don't like to use the word control, but with that passion that the kids had for it, we progressed that nation very, very quickly to the top level in the world youth sailing level. And the team was very, very successful at, we call it the Asian Games level, which is a big event for the Asian countries. And that cemented some of the things that I suppose my father back in the day gave me the knowledge with the concept of perfecting the basics. And we had some young sailors, both in Optimus and 420s and 470s, they'd never raced on the international circuit. They'd never been out of Yangon, the capital city. And I'm not sure if people know, but Yangon City is in the middle of the country. It's on a very small lake, only a little bit bigger than Albert Park Lake. And we developed this, with the great team I had, we developed this group of children who went onto the international scene from this little lake in the middle of the country. And all of a sudden, people were saying, what's MYA on their sail? And MYA back then was the initials for Myanmar, like AUS with Australia. And that was sort of the birth of watching all these fantastic young people have a connection with the ocean. Since then, the program in Myanmar has grown huge. They have a massive sailing program, and they also are doing some great stuff for the community up there. They've built a huge sailing centre. I don't even have a picture of a club in Melbourne that would be as big as it.
Wow.
It's twice as big as Sandringham Yacht Club.
Wow.
And it's on the open side in Burma at a place called Chanda Beach, and it's a facility specifically for sailing and for surfing and kite surfing. So it's a country on the move, and within the Asian region, it's definitely performing. But it was a Wild West, and I'll just mention a little story. When I was up there, I had a little powerboat one day coaching these children on the lake, Optimus kids, and a military boat came out to my coach boat, and they said, the boss wants to talk to you. And was maybe in my 30s then, and I didn't quite understand what this was all about. And so the interpreter came over and I jumped in and went in. And when I got to the beach, there was a military jeep sitting there, just like you'd see in MASH. And so two very young soldiers in that jeep with from memory, they had rifles on their shoulders. And I had to get in that jeep and go off. And I didn't quite understand where they were taking me to, but I realised that it was pretty serious. So in this jeep, I travelled off for about 45 minutes, and we went out to a place called the Ministry of Sport, and it's a big, huge facility in the middle of Yangon, and very grey and not much there, but they marched me in, and I thought, wow, what's going to happen here to this young Aussie coach? This might be the last time my parents ever see me. And marched me into this big, if you can imagine, a diplomatic type environment with a big long table with microphones at each end of the table and along each side of the table. And they sat me down at one end, and they left me there for a while. And I was thinking, wow, this is serious. I don't know what I've done wrong, but I was trying to think of all the connections and all the discussions I'd had with the athletes. And next minute, all the generals walked in, and just like you see on TV with the big epaulets on the shoulders and all the medals on their chests, and very, very serious human beings. And so we sat down, and all they wanted to know was how many medals we were going to win at the, it's called the Southeast Asian Games. And I said, look, you know, we're a very young team. We haven't competed internationally. We might win one, maybe, but that wasn't good enough for the generals. They wanted more. And so we went off to Korea, to a place called Busan, and we were there in Busan getting ready for this the games, where I'd promised the generals that we'd win one medal. And the night before, they flew in and they met us in the meeting room, and I've never seen a bigger wad of US dollars in my life. And they pulled the US dollars out, and they peeled some off, and they gave a bunch of money to the athletes, which was fantastic, because, you know, a lot of these children were from families that in our Western eyes don't have much. So a few hundred US dollars went a long way back then. And my other Aussie coach, a great guy called Paul Eldred from Perth, I think Paul's Evolution Sales over there these days. We were standing in the back of the room sort of going, where's our money? You know, we need a bit of cash. It's got to come our way. And that team went on to win, I think it was maybe six gold medals at that event. The team went back as national heroes, and the rest is history. That success basically facilitated them then to start a national sailing program, which is highly regarded in the Asian region. So, yeah, there was a few Aussies involved in that campaign, and they're quite instrumental on, you know, giving a developing nation a pathway. And that's one of the things I've been really interested in, is always, no matter what the organisation is I've worked for in my sailing career, it's always to give them a legacy that when I leave, it's in a better place than I found it. And I think that's really important when we're talking about clubs. And I've been to many clubs around the world, and I think often we do get up in our own little environment, and sometimes our little what we want out of the club. And I think we've got to think about how we're going to leave that club for our children and our grandchildren. And I think it's a really healthy thing to remember when we're in any type of committee meeting, or you know, we're there on the weekend. We've got to go, well, let's make sure this place is in good shape for the future. So yeah, so, you know, with that experience in some of the Asian nations, I then started to work for the Australian sailing team. And I'm not sure if everyone understands or has an idea about the success of the Australian sailing team, but it's regarded as Australia's most successful Olympic sport. It's won the Sport of the Year many, many times with the Australian Institute of Sport. And, the swimming teams, the rowing teams, the cycling teams, they really look up to the way the Australian sailing team operates from both an athletic point of view, but also from a system point of view, managerial point of view. There's a lot of very, very bright people in the background making everything happen. And from the success of our young Victorian, Tom King, in the Sydney Olympics, and a few others there who won gold, Jenny Armstrong and Belinda Stoll and Mark Bull, who was Tom's partner, that started the ball rolling for all the government funding here in Australia. And we were very lucky at that time to have a Ukrainian coach come into Australia, a guy called Viktor Kovalenko. And Victor has showed our nation how to basically operate at a high level in the sailing Olympic arena. And Victor comes from the Ukraine. He's a master of psychology. So he basically brought a different way of looking at the sport and a different way of training our sport here in Australia. We're very slapstick, I suppose, back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But, he has very, very strict protocols and methods on how to move athletes up through the pathway to the Olympic level. And it's a big business now. It's a big program. The Australian sailing team on the performance side, these days I'm not sure, but back in the day there was 40 plus staff, everything from physios to weather people to sports scientists, coaches, boatmen, everything you can think of. They have there to help the athletes perform at their highest. And so I started early on in 2007 with the Australian sailing team based in Queensland as a head coach there. And my role was very specific, and it was to develop youth talent to one day be in the Australian Olympic team. And so many of the athletes who came through the early days of that program were extremely successful at the world youth level. And probably one of the successful parts of that program was the talent that ended up from 2007 to representing Australia at the Rio Olympics. And there was 3 or 4 of the young sailors who came from that initial 2007 program. But I think one of the biggest things that happened in those early years, and I think this is a good thing for any business or any yacht club, you've got to have very clear vision and very clear culture and very clear boundaries on how we're going to get there. And I remember talking to all these young, 14, 15, 16-year-olds that were going to the Olympic Games, and they all looked at me stupidly thinking, what's this guy talking about? And as time progressed, they saw what I was on about, and it was a serious business that we're involved with, and we were on that journey. And probably one of the greatest success stories I've had as a coach is a young fellow called Jake Lilly, who's now our Finn Olympic representative for Tokyo, and Jake went to the Olympics in Rio, and he was just a young kid hanging out at a yacht club, wandering around like a big lovable puppy dog with no direction. And I was one of these people who gave him some direction in life, not only from an athletic point of view, but when you become a coach at this level, you have a big involvement in a person's personal life, and you mould them not only as an athlete but as a young Australian. And that's really important that you do a good job there. That's nearly above creating the athlete. It's to make sure they become good people. And so, with that with that 2008 to 2012 campaign, I also had a dual role, and that was I was a national coach for the Yingling class, which is like a little mini Etchell, and that was a women's class with Crystal Weir, Melbourne lady, Karen Goynich, Sydney girl, and another girl, Angela Farrell, who was a Sydney girl, and we went on a great journey with the girls, and they had some amazing success in that little team. It was thrown together pretty quickly, but like always, we just stuck to the basics, and we tried to do the basics right, and the girls did a great job, and they ended up second in the World Championships just before the Olympic Games in China, and going into the medal race, they were in 5th place, but they had a little bit of a hiccup in the last race, and they ended up 10th, which was a great performance for some young girls who it was their first Olympic Games. But I was also heavily involved, which is probably my biggest passion, is with the Paralympic side of things. And great friend of mine, Dan Fitzgibbon. Dan's now a dual Olympic medalist for Australia. Sorry, 3 medals. He won a silver medal in China, a gold medal in London, and then another gold medal in Rio. So Dan's our most successful sailing athlete that Australia's ever had. And Dan's journey and story itself is amazing. You know, he was a young up-and-coming 470 and 420 athlete in Brisbane, and accidentally got pushed off a jetty at the Middle Harbour Yacht Club at a 420 regatta one year, and you know, had the misfortune of breaking his back, and Dan is a quadriplegic, and so you know, that brings a lot of challenges with life, but desire to go to the Olympic Games never stopped burning, because he wanted to go as an able-bodied athlete anyway. He was around the same age group as our great Nathan Wilmot. And so, you know, Dan had quite a few years of trying to work out where he was going in life with his accident, and eventually got through the other side, finished uni, and got back into the sailing, and really dedicated himself to becoming the best Paralympic sailor that you could become. And one of the greatest things when you start to deal with athletes with challenges, and we're talking athletes with big challenges, quadriplegics, you don't take life for granted anymore. When you have an athlete who needs, we called it a 2-nurse program, when you've got 2 nurses to get an athlete out of bed every morning, and we're talking changing catheters and all that high need care that an athlete needs, and they get out there and they train for 6-7 hours in a day, and then they wheel them back up the dock and put them back in their wheelchair and push them up to the dining hall. You start to think about, wow, how lucky are we? And we went through the China campaign with a young lady out of Perth, a lady called Rachel Cox, who was Dan's partner in our first campaign. And the team won a silver medal in China. The amazing thing about China, which really spurred us on to go to London, was the gold medalist, a guy called Nick Scandone. Just remember this, what I'm going to tell you now. He's got a great book called In the Nick of Time. And that book is about Nick's life. He was a Olympic level 470 sailor, and had a very aggressive degenerative disease. I think it's called ASL or ADSL. Anyway, that really got a grip of Nick's life, and it really started to affect him in a big way very quickly. And so Nick was involved with the parasailing, and Nick won the gold medal in China. And when he went up to collect his gold medal on the podium, he knew he only had about 3 or 4 weeks to live. And he's a very, very frail human at this stage. Very, very small, maybe only 28 kilos, 30 kilos. And the raw emotion that was coming out of Nick Scandone, getting a medal put around his neck, it was his lifetime achievement. And he knew that in 3 or 4 weeks he wouldn't be on this earth. And to see that in person was a pretty life-changing experience. When you see someone that close to death, but achieving the biggest achievement they've achieved in life was, pretty special. So
while you talk about the Paralympics, sailing isn't included in Tokyo. What was your thought about that?
Yeah, look, I couldn't believe it when it happened, because it's one of the only sports at the para level that allows massive diversity. With the boats we sail at the para level, you have the ability to use electronics, which can widely enhance the athlete's ability to perform. The types of people you might have, quadriplegic who has no use of their hands, legs, but they can blow and suck on a tube. So we call it a PIF, a suck and blow control, and that can control a whole lot of stuff in the boat with electronics. And so you can have an athlete with a very high level of impairment, and they can still compete. And so it brings a whole lot of people to sport and out of their wheelchairs and out of their houses, and all of a sudden they're free and they're on the ocean and they're having a great time. The whole Paralympic movement, I think, if anything, you could do at any yacht club. If you can involve any type of para activity, it brings a whole new level of difference to your club. The people are so special, you got no idea. And so, it's amazing. So, with that para involvement, you start to realise that all the things that we whinge about in life, someone annoyed me at work, or, the coffee was no good at the local, the latte was too hot or too cold, or my car's not clean. Like, it just doesn't matter. We're just so lucky to be able to walk around, and even with this lockdown at the moment, we call it a lockdown, but it's not really. It's not affecting us too much. Life's pretty easy, but when you're in a tough position like a quad athlete, things are looking pretty good for us. But so that. The 2008-2012 period with the Australian sailing team was amazing, because it was probably their highest success period, and just to be around the great minds of a Victor Kovalenko and a Michael Blackburn, our laser specialist, and just to see how these guys operate at the high level was pretty amazing. And the big take home is they do the basics perfectly. They never worry about all the little things on the periphery. They're extremely focused. Once they walk in that Olympic 4 walls, they're just thinking about the job at hand. And it's great to be around coaches of that level to see how they operate. They leave no stone unturned in their crazy methodology, but they're all different. Victor is, I would say, quite old school. He's like
it's like a Russian scientist almost. They call him the medal maker, isn't he?
Yeah,
he comes across like this Russian scientist, which is not fair to him. But
he's a very interesting man, very intelligent, and you get to know him, and he's a very kind man, and he loves his athletes. Very important when you, I think when you're trying to achieve great things, it doesn't matter if it's in life or business or in a sporting team. The people you surround yourself with, one, they've got to be on the journey with you. There's no room for people who aren't on the bus. So they all pay the ticket and they get on, and they've got to be on that journey. And I think that's in the same in business. You've got to have people who are with you all the way. And you know, one of the things with a guy like Michael Blackburn, Michael's very, very, Michael doesn't say much, but he's a very deep thinker. But both those guys love their athletes a lot. And I think, you know, in business, you've got to love your staff and you've got to bring them along for the journey. And I think in today's world, there's too many people who just push the problems to the side and go, oh, that guy's too hard to deal with. They don't ask the question, why? You know, what's wrong? Are you okay today? You know, how is the family life, or how's your wife, or how's your partner? And then you might delve into their life and find that things aren't so good at home, and they need a hand. And often people just want someone to talk to. So I think the great thing you see with those coaches is they treat their athletes very, very, very well when it comes to that elite performance. And they love them like they're...
Yeah.
Yep.
That's like really...
They love them like they're...
Yeah, because that's relevant, I guess, with a lot of skippers. You know, it's about how do we get the crew in there, and Kerwin Robb, who you'd know from the Etchells, what's the best way to pick a successful team? And a lot of situations that we have, you're just trying to get anybody on there, but like you just hinted, that once you've got people on there, you need to get them engaged and get them involved and passionate about it as well.
Yeah, and I think you need to give them some responsibility. And you know, I spend a lot of time at the club level helping teams out with their communication skills, and a lot of owners that I've dealt with, they like to be the boss, and I see it time and time again. You'll go onto a boat, and the owner wants to be the centre of attention with everything that's going on, and we just don't have the ability to do the tactics and do the start and trim the jib and tell someone how to put the spinnaker pole up. And it's that old saying, you've got to surround yourself with like-minded people and good people who you trust, and then you'll get the best out of yourself. We love to see the control freaks. They want to control everything, and they're yelling and screaming, and it's all going pear-shaped, and they've crashed into someone at the port end of the start line. And, you know, they're the classic, I think that great tactical rider, Dave Dellenbar from the US. I think he used to call them the Steve the Screamer or something like that. But, you know, we need to, you know, give some other ownership to other team members, and one thing in teams, you've got to find out what makes that person tick and what their
motives are, I guess. What's their
what their skill set is. Often and I'll talk about the club environment, Sailor, but often we'll bring people to our team and we never ask them sort of what their passion is and what they're good at and what they do for work. You might have someone sailing on a Wednesday who's sitting on the rail, and they're I don't know, you know, they're a doctor of medical science, you know, and then you might have someone else on the rail who, you know, is a manager of a huge corporation. So you mold those skills together, and all of a sudden you've got a great team. But often people don't allow that interaction or that passing of information to happen. And I think if I could say one thing to any club level sailor is really encourage our first timers, the people who come down to yacht club and the people who we're trying to get involved in our sport, really encourage them to be a part of your team and try to give them some guidance and really give them some ownership of their little department. You're doing the jib. It's your jib today. You take control of it. You don't want to be micromanaging a person in the sailing environment, because what happens, they just don't come back. And I see it time and time again in the club environment where people get introduced to the sport and their first experience isn't a good one due to the micromanaging.
Yeah.
And so, like any good team, you got to have some good leadership.
I'm interested to know, and we've had a question about Royal Brighton Yacht Club, which it's really transformed that car park into that off the beach area there, which is just, it has really changed the club quite dramatically. Very impressive sort of thing. I should ask here, have you been to Hobson's Bay Yacht Club? You might not have been across to our club.
Yeah, I have been there, and I've actually walked in there a few years ago when I was in Melbourne over that way. Yeah, I have been there. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
do.
Go on.
Yeah, I do know the footprint.
Yeah. So, and we're very blessed to have Rod there at the moment. So he's been fantastic, especially at the moment. So with Royal Brighton, it's had a wish to off the beach type thing. Are you the first coach that they've had in recent times?
Yeah. So my position, it's a new position. I might have been there 3 years now. So the club had a vision that they needed someone in there who could help members. A lot of people do connect me with junior sailing, but when I'm at Brighton, I'm there for all the members. And our club, it is quite unique because they did change the print of the club very dramatically. And they changed the mode of operation of the club. You know, we're a club that's open to the public, and I don't think there's many clubs in Australia or Victoria who have the open to the public, anyone can come in type of concept. We're in a bit of a unique position because we're right on the beachfront. Most people know it. We've got this great sandy beach and a bike path in front with a lot of traffic, and that openness, if I use that word, brings a whole different dynamics to a venue. All of a sudden it's vibrant. There's traffic there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. You get a huge buy-in from, we'll call them the coffee customers who come to the club to have their latte in the morning on their morning walk or their gym. We get buy-in to sailing from those people. And so the sailing club, we're not a sailing club anymore. We're a community hub, and so I think I have a very strong view on sailing clubs in Australia, and I think for us to survive long term, we need to become hubs of the community across a broad range of activities. And you know, at our club we have a extremely strong iceberger, we call them, the swimming group. And they're a huge part of our community, and they are an incredible group, and they bring so much to our club life, and it just makes our club way stronger with all their diversity. You know, with all the different people involved in that group. We've got a big group of paddlers, windsurfing. We've got the OTB, the off the beach stuff, our school programs, and our keelboat sailing. And the keelboat sailing, we have different groups inside that. We've got a huge cruising group with very, very passionate cruising sailors. So Brighton's had the ability to have this diverse group of people swirling around and interacting together, but all enjoying the one venue. And it's a very happy club. There's a really good feel there. Like, people really genuinely love coming to work. I can speak for the staff.
Yeah.
Love coming to work there. Our general manager, an amazing lady, Hannah Catchpole. Hannah's come from a rugby union background. She was a performance director in a rugby union club. So dealing with all boys in a big boy sport. And Hannah also had a background in horse racing in New Zealand. And so, she looks at a sailing club from a very different view to how we as sailors look at a sailing club. And I think it's been a lot of success of Brighton is to have the manager come in who doesn't look at our sport the way we look at it.
Sure.
Hannah looks at the club as a very diverse community, and that's been a real cool thing to be involved in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have changed. Go.
I was going to ask you two things about Royal Brighton. Number one, how's the jetty?
Yep.
And secondly, what to help out Armin, what sort of format would you do for keelboat sailors? You go out and how does that work with the keelboat sailor? Because we are predominantly keelboats. We have a small fleet. Yeah.
Do you mean how would you help keelboats out from
how does it work? And how do you, as a coach, work with the keelboat sailors? What sort of do they book you in for a particular night, or is it on a request, or what sort of arrangement?
Yeah, so it's generally just they book in my time at the sailing office, and depending on what type of boat it is, anything from an Etchell. We've got the little 2.4s there, which are a keelboat, but they're little. The members just book me in and I go out and help them with their specific needs.
Is that included in their fees, or they pay extra for that? How's that?
They pay a small fee on top of that. It's only small. It's an hourly rate that is not a lot. And it's just a little fee to keep some money coming in the door.
Yeah.
But and there are times when also when the club sees fit, I do go out on club members' boats to just help them out free of charge. So it's a real member service, and anyone in that type of role, you've got to have a real service industry focus. I'm there, and I'm there to serve the members and make sure they have a great day. Yeah. And so, it's like going to McDonald's. You want to have a good hamburger and get served by a nice person.
Yeah.
And, my position's a real feel-good position for the members at Royal Brighton.
Yeah.
I
think our club's certainly got some scope to do that, because a lot of our members have come into sailing quite late. Water boats, haven't maybe come through the dinghy side of things, and so there's scope to improve that. But at the same time, making sure that people are going out there for the fun aspect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to our general keelboat fleet at Brighton, most clubs in the bay, it's all about fun and a good time on a Wednesday or Friday night sail. We have one or two sort of, we'll call them serious campaigners, but they're far and few between these days. People love to get out there and, have a beer or wine on the downwind run on the fixed course racing and just talk to their mates. And I think as we've seen globally, the racing side of the sport, I think it's in trouble a little bit because the modern day family unit doesn't have the time these days to give a whole day or a whole weekend to a sport. The family unit is it's very time poor these days, and so I think the short type of Wednesday afternoon beer can, if I use that term, racing, it's a really successful model, and it gets a lot of people to the sport. You don't have to bring much technical advice along with the journey, and you can get out there with yourself and a few good friends who don't know a lot about sailing, and you can have a great time. Pole the jib out and away you go. And I think that's a growth area of our sport. I think racing is not a growth area anymore. It's just too time consuming and probably costly for most families, and probably post post-COVID now is going to be challenging.
Yeah, I think certainly at our club, our experiences are Thursday night non-spinnaker races have really gone off. We used to have a joint race with Royal Yacht Club, and which was spinnakers and all that. People are really going to the Thursday night non-spinnakers, and also two-handed.
Yep.
Two-handed series is really popular because it's just
Yeah.
easy to, you just got to get one crew member and
Yeah.
all those Olympics.
Yeah,
What do you do with the uniforms? Are they all in your? What do you do with all the uniforms?
There's some great homeless guys in St Kilda who are walking around with Australian tracksuits on.
Yeah.
And most of, like, I will say that the privilege of representing Australia at the Olympic level, you get a lot of gear, and you end up with 3 huge bags full of everything from undies, socks, to suit jackets, to you know, 4 pair of sand shoes, and the whole 9 yards. And you know, most of it you give away, and you give away to your family who's supported you for all those years. You give your dad the best Olympic suit, and you give your brother the great Olympic tracksuit, and he walks down the coffee shop with it and talks it up to his local barista, because you know, I've got no more use for it.
Yeah.
And the people who have been with you on your journey, they can have so much fun with it, and they go to their local communities and they love talking it up. And so I think I've only got out of the 3 Olympics I've been to as a coach, I've only got one jacket left. With
it being the 20-year anniversary of the Sydney Olympics, and all the volunteers from the Sydney Olympics, they're getting their uniforms dry cleaned and they're bringing them out, and it's such an important part of their life. You do get a lot of stuff. Now, Rod said good luck in the Australian Sailing Coach of the Year award. So do you know when it's announced?
I think it's the 23rd of this month it's announced. So my club nominated me for that honour. So that's been a great thing. So we'll see how we go. And I think, how much time have we got left? What have we got?
A couple of minutes. I don't know. Go over time?
We've got a meeting at 8 o'clock, haven't we, David?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We've got a meeting.
I just thought, is there any burning questions there from our?
I have been monitoring the chat ones, and I think I've sort of covered those in our discussion anyway. And one was, what's the first thing you look at when you're asked to coach a new team? That was
first thing I look at. Wow.
So many things.
Yeah, so many things. But if I'm on board the boat, I look at the communication styles. That's really important. And I think you've got to come at the communication styles from a performance point of view, but also a safety point of view. And a lot of people, and this is a very broad brush statement, but they just talk way too much. And on a yacht, and less is best. And when you have been involved with some of the greats in our sport, and probably a great place to look at trying to get some ideas is some of this GP 50 catamaran circuit. You can hear the Tom Slingsbys of the world and the Nathan Outridges, and you can hear their communication styles and delivery. And they just talk about the basic wind and the basic wind on the water, and it's very matter of fact. And so I think, look at the communication, and then it doesn't matter what type of craft I hop on. I always look at how much a person moves the tiller or the rudder or the wheel. A boat doesn't need much help to sail along. And you get on board and someone's pushing and pulling the tiller, or they're doing this on the wheel, and it's like, let's just let's just hold that steady.
That's what Ryan Blackstock does. He does that.
Who's that?
Ryan Blackstock. Yeah, he's all over.
Okay.
No, they just won the club championship. So anyway, I've woken him up on the couch. So look, it is time. It is time. And it's been fantastic to hear those stories. And I hope maybe down the track that we could invite you to the club and maybe further this discussion as well, because I think Hobson's Bay certainly got the scope to have a coach, probably not a full-time coach. We wouldn't have that ability, but certainly we need to encourage that aspect of things.
Yeah, I think if I can just leave you one thought, I think it brings a real focal point to the club to have someone like a coach at your club. It gives everyone in the club somewhere to go, someone to talk to about their sailing or their problems. You think of most other sporting clubs, golf clubs, football clubs, they all have a club coach. And sailing is taken that up pretty slowly. It's not a common thing within sailing clubs, but I think I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's a really undervalued tool in a sailing club. If you get the right person, they can bring so much to your venue. And Rod has been at a few clubs where they've had coaches come in, and Rod's seen what coaches can do for a venue. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, okay. I really appreciate your time, and we've had good attendance, and I'd love to hear stories about Mike Fletcher and all that. So have to leave that to another time. But well, David, the last thing is I'll just finish off. Thanks for having me, and thanks, Rod, for giving me that call. It's always great to talk to like-minded people and people who love sailing. But the last thing I want to say is here in Victoria, we're one community, and I think right across the bay, if we start to think about, we're all in the same sport. We're all out there enjoying it. It's going to make our sport bigger and stronger, and hopefully we'll see everyone out there on the water. Yes,
So,
very soon. Yes.
So thanks.
Yeah, no, excellent, and you're getting lots of thank yous in the chat side of things there as well, and a bit of applause.
Thank you.
I'll have a red wine now.
Yeah, you can sit back. Yeah, you must be a bit thirsty. You've been talking solidly there, so I really appreciate that. And we should have allocated 2 hours. I think that there'd be so many more questions I've got. That's for sure. Yeah,
well, maybe. Rod can talk to me over the weekend.
We'll invite you to the club aids and on some boats and talk about sails and boat handling.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of topics. So thanks, Aids. Thanks, David.
All good.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
Bye,
say
guys.
goodbye. This will be filmed and we'll talk again to Aids. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
The pleasure. So, Rod, are we staying online now for the general committee?
No, we've got another one to go to now. Yeah. This one, another one. Okay. There's another link.
You've sent me a link, have you? Okay.
Yeah, it's on the. I hope so. I hope so. Yeah. Okay.